So be his biggest cheerleader and speak words of life to him. Did you know that most men struggle with insecurity? We think of it just being women that struggle with insecurity, but most men, not that they would ever admit this to you because they have to be very macho and, you know, I've got it all together, but like on anonymous surveys, men say like they fear that people think they're a failure, that they're not good enough. So if you think of it that way, your guy is already feeling super insecure. Maybe it's from childhood wounds that he's carried forever that he's never dealt with for a variety of reasons. Maybe he's not feeling respected at work for whatever reason, and he needs you to be the one person that says, I believe in you. I see good in you. You can do this. That you're like his cheerleader. Encourage him. How could you encourage your guy? Proverbs 18:21 says, the tongue has the power of life and death. We mentioned this Bible verse so many times, but it's so critical, right? To remember that what comes out of your mouth is either going to crush your guy and further emasculate him, and it just compounds this feeling that he's already carrying around that he's a loser and not good enough, so I might as well just check out. And what happens when a guy decides to check out? Well, sometimes he either lashes out at you and it becomes anger focused, like outward focused, or he goes inward and he starts self-medicating with things like alcohol, pornography, gambling, excessive gaming, whatever it is. So none of those things sound like good options, right? So what if you were to start speaking life to him instead? If you want your husband to open his heart to you and be vulnerable, he needs to believe that you're truly for him. I mean, ask yourself, the way that I interact with my husband, does he probably believe that I'm for him or against him? When he's out of line, request to change firmly, but with gentleness and encouragement. Gentleness and encouragement. Galatians 6 says, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And Hebrews 3:13 says, but encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. You know, often we respond in a really counterproductive way when our husbands do something that is over the line, whether it is that he was speaking in a really harsh, mean way to you, or whether you caught him looking at pornography, or whatever it was, right? When we respond in a counterproductive way, I mean, like sometimes we just lash out and we say really demeaning things to him, really sweeping generalizations, just demolishing his character, and we just feel like we should be able to lash out because he did this horrible thing, right? Or we go the opposite direction, we become the ice queen. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Just like shutting him out, just cold as ice. Does either way really work? No, it doesn't. So the better way is to calmly request a change, using a confident voice, but with gentleness and compassion. And it's also so important to be encouraging and to offer hope to your husband in the middle of that conversation. I wanted to write down something that I've said to my husband. I'm kind of leaving some blanks because I'm not going to tell you what I was talking to him about, but I was trying to recall how I talked to him the other day, and I said, I know you would never hurt me intentionally, but what you did made me feel like I'm asking you to, you know, whatever the change is, and I know you can do it, and I'm going to stand with you and help you through this. So it was like making the change, making the request for change, like this is not okay, this made me feel this way, and I'm making a request for change, but I also started out by saying, I know you never intended to hurt me and that you never would do that intentionally. See how that like is, it's basically saying, I see good in you. I see good in you. You're not a horrible person. I see good in you. You would never hurt me intentionally. I know that, but you did. And I'm asking you to never do that again, or to do, you know, to do this differently, whatever the request is. And then kind of giving that hope, whatever that would sound like for you, like, but you know, I'm in this with you, and we're gonna figure this thing out. It's giving him that hope to continue on. Whenever he does share any fears or worries or hopes or dreams or plans or insecurities, avoid criticism and fault finding, and be a quiet and gentle listener instead, because you need to be a safe place for his heart. A safe place for his heart. James 1:19 says, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Ah, it's so hard to do, isn't it? Like, so hard to just be a good listener. But your husband, if he finally does start opening up, needs you to just be a listener instead of a fault finder or a criticizer. I know for me, like if my husband starts doing some dreaming, do any other husbands do like all these gigantic dreams and plans, and you're like, oh, please don't do that? Anyone else? Come on, I want to see a show of hands. Anyone? Yes, exactly. This is very common, by the way. You are in good company if your husband has all sorts of grandiose plans. We're going to sell everything and buy a sailboat and sail around the world. We're going to sell everything and get a Winnebago or whatever. I mean, you know, we're like, we're just going to do this. I'm going to sell everything. We're going to start our own business. And I'm like, I cannot tell you how many times Raul has had these ideas. And at first I would be like, oh, immediately had to point out all the faults because I'm like terrified he's going to do this. And then I learned, first of all, that a lot of men are just dreamers. And this is just how God wired them. And so it's going to be okay. They're probably not going to sell everything and make you move into a tent or something. You know, it's probably going to be okay, first of all. But secondly, I've learned that instead of immediately criticizing and fault finding and just telling him all the reasons this is a stupid, stupid idea, is I've learned to just not have any big dramatic reaction and just think of some gentle questions I could ask that are like clarifying questions that get him to think through his idea. Tell me more about that. That's all you have to say. Tell me more about that. And if you have that kind of husband that takes that as a green light to sell everything, you might need to throw a little caveat in there like, well, let's pause a minute and just tell me about that. And so as he starts talking it out, and then he says a couple things, you say, well, how do you think that would work? And how would you handle, the finances? And you're just asking questions. But after a while, they kind of can see that, oh, this would be kind of complex and complicated. And so I've learned to just say, tell me more about that. But isn't that so much better than fault finding and criticizing and saying, well, that is just stupid. And what are you thinking? Yeah. 1 Peter 3:4 says, your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, I'm hiding my jewelry. Rather, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. The gentle and quiet spirit. Now, when I originally read this verse, years and years ago, thought, God does not understand my personality. I do not have a gentle and quiet spirit. I am like bubbly. I'm like, and so is he trying to make me change my personality? No. In fact, I asked my husband about this verse and said, what does this mean? Do I have to change personalities? And he said, no. A gentle and quiet spirit means that you're not always challenging your husband. You're not always talking really loud and obnoxious in his face and criticizing him. It's just that you have kind of a gentle interaction with him that is kind of calm and not hugely emotional and big drama. Because most guys do not do well with big, dramatic, overblown emotions. Have you noticed that? So it's kind of just having that gentle interaction with your husband.